Gans. It's time to hear from Katie Gans, and she is, of course, speaking on the topic that's on the screen, secrets to exciting, engaging, and informative chapter newsletters. And I've had the privilege of seeing parts of this, not this actual program, but Katie trying to tell me and show me how to do this. Obviously, I'm not the chapter newsletter editor, so it's not my thing, but I know we're going to be excited and happy to hear what she has to say. She is from Gamma Phi chapter down by Cincinnati, or I guess I should say Cincinnati area. And with that, Katie, go right on ahead.
Okay. I was going to set a timer so I don't go over and start. Okay. So, my name is Katie Gans, and I am currently the chapter editor of our Gamma Phi newsletter, which is called The Gazette. My journey into newsletter organization and creation started about 7 years ago when I was the president of our chapter. I became president that year, and I felt that even though I only had basic computer skills at the time, I thought my chapter would benefit from increased engagement of members via more frequent newsletters. We had about 4 newsletters a year, 5 newsletters a year, didn't always know when they were coming, and thought it would really help everyone for newsletters to come on a more organized basis and get people more engaged. So one problem I have, and I'm going to be honest about this, is I normally don't have much patience with reading newsletters myself. I admit it. I tend to skip down in newsletters. I don't always read everything, and I'm guilty. I will admit that. So I set about a goal of creating a monthly newsletter for my chapter that had all the important chapter updates and things that they need, but something that I myself would actually have read. And I felt time was valuable. So that's kind of what my goal was. Something I would actually read and get people involved. So now let's see, how do I get this? Okay, so I surveyed a bunch of our members. I sent a bunch of texts out about 2 months ago and said, what do you guys like about our Gazette? Because I always hear compliments from our chapter members. And I got really the same 5 answers from just about everybody I surveyed. They all wanted to know they wanted to have it as expected time every time, regular time it was coming to them. They wanted it to be organized. They wanted it to be informative. They wanted it to be a very easy read, and they wanted it to be exciting. Those are the 5 things over and over. They said it in different ways, but those were the 5 key things that they liked about our newsletter. And I firmly believe if you get them reading, you're gonna keep them reading. So that was my goal. And I've looked at those 5 qualities, and I'm going to give you a little bit of information on each one. So first of all, expect it. It's important to stick with a set schedule for your newsletter. Don't just put it out when you want to. Our members love that our newsletter comes on the 2nd of every month. Now, that's ambitious. And I've been doing this for 7 years, every month. But they really like that they know it's coming, and they're ready for it when it comes, and they want to open it and see what's going on. Your chapter may not have that need, maybe every 2 months, maybe quarterly, whatever your chapter needs. But the more often your members receive updates, the greater their connection with the chapter. There's always controversy over whether we send electronic or printed copies. Obviously, there's a lot of chapters out there who still have members that can't do anything on a computer, and we understand that. So maybe a possibility is send them electronically, or both. Now, in our particular chapter, we have a member who is doesn't even have a computer and is not able to get anything. So there's a member who prints out our newsletter every month and mails it to that lady. So we send it electronically, but you could involve members, get other members active to help you out with that. That's another way you could engage members. Let's talk about organized. Smart planning and organization is going to be crucial. Consider creating a newsletter folder on your desktop if you're going to be editor. Create that newsletter folder, and from then on, any documents you create for newsletters are readily accessible in that one spot. So all my past editions are in that folder. All my clip art that I use is in that folder. My current one I'm working on is in that folder. Any articles I received from members this month are in that folder. So everything's together in one spot. I can start looking at it. Another thing you want to think about ahead is, what do you want your newsletter for your chapter to look like? Now, Kathy Tenney's voice, which we're all very familiar with, is on the left there. And you can see in her case, she puts the text all the way across the page, but embeds pictures in it as she goes down. Mine's a little different. I use columns, and I create those columns with text boxes. And I'm going to show you how I do that later on in my presentation. I basically treat the entire page as one big bulletin board and stick things on it. So each text box is like sticking on something on, it's like a scrapbooking. You want to get people interested. So article titles are really important. You want them to be short, interesting, and sometimes clever. They should be bold. And by the way, you can get all this from me if you contact me. So you don't have to write all this. Article titles should be short, interesting, and clever. In this particular one, I didn't want to just put emergency fund or DKG emergency fund at the top. I wanted to put something that would get people wondering what the article was about so they'd read it. So I do a lot of that where I kind of create a carrot to get them enticed to read things. And as you can see, my bold title is a little bit bigger font too. I want it to be big in the center at the top so they kind of catch that title. I cannot express my love enough for undo and redo buttons. I make tons of mistakes. On average newsletter, I probably goof up 20 times. And I just go up and hit the undo button and go back to where I was and start again. It's not a problem to make mistakes. Half the time when I make a mistake, I figure out how you can do something as a result of making a mistake. So don't be hesitant to find the undo and redo buttons and use them liberally when you're working on these things. This is all about creativity and designing things to make people excited to read. So you're going to make mistakes in how you put it together. Don't worry about that. Just undo what you did and start again from where you were. Number 3 is informative. People aren't going to read it if they don't think it's worth reading. Your front page needs to really grab them. And I will say, one of the ladies who responded to my question about what you like, she said, you always have a hook on the front page. There's something that hooks me in to want to read the rest of the newsletter. Mm-hmm. We have a catchy name. We have our whole masthead with all the required stuff. But then underneath it, we put the upcoming dates. Our particular Gazette does birthday wishes below that. You don't have to. I know a lot of newsletters that put it at the end. And then I always put an exciting article on the front page. Now, I realize that most of the rules, the unwritten rules of newsletter writing is you have to have a president's article on the front page of your newsletter. Our chapter does not do that. We might have the president reporting on something and giving some information about something coming up or a concern, but we don't necessarily have that. We'd rather put something on the front page that gets everybody excited and then keep reading, and maybe that president has something else on another page. But that's up to your particular chapter. And as I said, it's the industry standard to always put a president's president's, delivery on the front page. And if that's what your members want, that's great. But in our chapter, we don't do that. We're rebels. Other things we can include, I'm not going to read these to you, you can read, but basically anything and everything that's going on with your chapter. And there may be things that members can send you that are ideas that you didn't even think of adding into the newsletter. And again, I can send this whole program to you, or you can watch it on YouTube. So don't write all this down. One key thing, I definitely need to stress this, is you can't do this alone. We ask our fellow members to contribute things every month. And I get things from people every month. Now, sometimes I have to do a gentle nudge, or our president has to give someone a gentle nudge and say, hey, we'd love a little information about what scholarship committee's doing. Can you write a quick article? But short, nothing long. And they're all willing to do that. My job as editor is not to write the content. I organize it. I make it look cute. I don't write all these articles. Number 4, an easy read. By an easy read, I mean create a balance. Keep people moving through your newsletter. I never put all my heavy, serious articles in the front and then lighter human interest at the end. I mix things up. I change the order of standard articles sometimes. If the treasurer's report was at the top of the second page one month, it might be in the middle of the third page another month. I try not to keep things exactly where they are every month so that it looks different every month and people want to look at it because it's fresh. Sort of like stores move around their inventory and you go back to look for a blouse and it's gone and then you realize they moved it around in the store to some other rack. They're keeping it interesting. And I think we should do that with newsletters also. Keep it very exciting and new and fresh. So think of your edition as a puzzle and you're moving the pieces around how you wish. You need to keep articles short and to the point. People are so busy, and I think we lose them when articles are really, really long. I also feel that paragraphs should be short and you should put spaces between paragraphs. It spreads it out and it makes it so much easier to read. I also include the contributor's name at the end of an article if possible, because that includes that person in the newsletter and they like the fact that they're included and they're recognized. You can also make key points bold. I want to show you an example of an article that was adjusted to make it much easier to read. Here's an article from our 2024 Gazette. And I'm not going to throw these two ladies under the bus. They did not send me the original article as one paragraph, but I condensed it into one paragraph on the left to show you how incredibly different it looks when I broke it apart into multiple paragraphs. You can see by separating it out, it's just so much easier to read on the right. And I do love these ladies, they're wonderful. So last, but very not least, exciting. Let's talk about exciting. So when you do a newsletter, you want people to continue looking at it. You want people to be interested enough to go from page to page. So include photos. That's one thing that people want to see. People want to see one another. They want to see what their friends have been doing, what the chapter's doing. These are some photo layouts that I did in my newsletter. And again, I just treat my whole newsletter as like a scrapbook, and that's what I'm sending out. Each month, it's just a series of pages of scrapbooking. Another thing I use a lot is clip art. I try to make sure there's some clip art item for every single article. It keeps your eye moving, it's exciting, it adds color and interest. And sometimes I'm trying to make them cute, like on the one on the left, you can see the little clock. It says, I added time to renew. So that's our little renewal clock. And we use that every year when it's time to renew. And everybody sees that clock and goes, oh, got to write the check. Pixabay and Canva down here on the right corner, those are both great resources. Pixabay is a whole website where you can type in any keyword and it'll give you tons of completely copyright-free clip art options. And I love it. I love Pixabay. Another thing I often add is holiday wishes in our newsletter. And just about any month, you can think of something in the way of some greeting, whether it's back to school or 4th of July or Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, Easter, whatever. Any given holiday time, you can celebrate in some way. And I will say holiday greetings are especially handy when I'm working on a newsletter and I have a space that I have nothing for, and I'm done except one gap and I don't know what to put in there. Usually that becomes a holiday greeting. It's a great way to fill up space. Another thing that makes newsletters fun is member updates. People want to hear about what they've been doing. This is our chapter notes section. And that's I make this the last thing in our newsletter each month because I know our members want to read about this stuff and I know they're going to get to it. So they go through the whole newsletter because they want to get to chapter notes and see what's happening. This can be surgeries. This can be weddings. This can be new grandchildren. This can be special vacations. It can be awards. It can be anything. And we have members send things all the time and say, hey, I want you to put this in. Here's a picture of it. And I throw it in. They send me exactly what they want me to put. Again, I don't write it. They send me what they want me to put. Member interest articles. A while back, we did a feature member article every month. We ran out of feature members after a certain number of months, of course. But we did a feature member article for quite a while. And then you could do a mystery member challenge every month, have some special thing about a member, and then have other members guess who it is. You could have new member introductions with their pictures so people know who they are. People love to read about one another and learn about their fellow DKG members. Another thing you can do is add links. And so these are all different links we've included in past newsletters. I threw in some. The handy links thing is at the bottom of my last page of our newsletter. I include that every month. But on any given article, if you want people to see more about it, you can add a link. And links are actually really easy. People think it's scary to put a link, but if you type in a web address and hit return, it turns into a link automatically. The only thing I do is I highlight them. What I do is I highlight them and then I turn them into bold and I usually change them into red so they show up. That's the only difference. And I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to show you a special trick to doing PDFs. But keep in mind, when you send your newsletter when it's done each month, you always want to send your final copy to members as a PDF if you're sending it electronically. Because we all work with different computer languages. Some of us are Apple people. Some of us are Word people. Some of us are working in Google Docs. So everybody's working with different programs. And if you send it to someone and they're not working in the program that you developed it in, it's probably going to look a little wonky when they get it. You want them to see it exactly the way you produced it and want them to see it. So it's always best to export it as a PDF first, and then that's the copy you want to send to everybody, because PDFs are like a picture. So you're sending them a photo of exactly what the document looks like. If your chapter posts your newsletter on a website each month or every half year or whatever, like ours does, be careful to make sure you do an adjusted copy without personal information before posting it on there as a PDF. So you probably want to do a separate, different PDF without the personal information. So for example, our president had everybody over to her house for a gathering not too long ago, and she included her home address, her email, and her phone number for people to reach her in one of our newsletters. So when I sent that to our secretary, I went ahead and got that all finished. And then I deleted those and changed the wording to she is having this at her home, and then made a PDF of that new copy to put on our website, our chapter website. It's very important to encourage your chapter members to contribute. The more involved they are, the more enthusiastic they're going to be. You want them to try to send newsletter-worthy items to you. You want them to proofread drafts. That's something that they can do. It's very easy. People who can't even go out of the house but have a computer can proofread what you have so far. They can also print and mail copies for members who are low-tech and don't have computers. So there are ways you can involve other members so you get them engaged. And as I've said before, engaged members stay members. So we want to promote engagement, keeping people involved, keeping people linked. Now, I want to show you what I do to create a sample newsletter. So this is how I work with ours. It doesn't mean you have to work with yours this way, but it's how I work with my newsletter that I create for our chapter. So I'm going to hit escape so I can get out of there. Get that guy to disappear. So, okay. We're still on, hopefully. Yep, I can hear voices. Okay. All right. So first thing I'm going to do, and hopefully you guys can all see my screen. I am an Apple person. I'm one of them. And so I work in Pages, and I've never even added Microsoft Word to my computer ever. So I only have Pages. But what I'm going to show you works in Word, it works in Pages. You can do versions in Google Docs. They all have similar abilities. You just have to find where the buttons are. So in Word, they might be at a different spot, but you can figure out, as long as you can figure out where they are, you're going to be able to do the same stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new document. And when the new documents come up, I do want to tell you, there are different templates. There are templates for everything. Some of you who work with ADSOEF might recognize the template over on the far side, over on the right here, because that's the one I used when I created a bunch of your trifolds. So if you go down here, you'll see there are newsletter templates. In partnership. And you can use those to create newsletters if you wish. My problem is 9 times out of 10, I feel like I'm fitting a square peg in a round hole. I've got this stuff and I need to fit it into those spaces and it just doesn't work. So I'm going to show you what I do for our newsletter using a blank copy. So I am going to open a document because I've been collecting some things I want to create this newsletter with today. So I already have some things I'm going to put together for you so you can see how I do this. So first of all, when you have a new page here, and this works on Word also, you just have to find out where. What I always do first is I go up to View and I go ahead and choose View Thumbnails. And now you have these little guys on the side of your page. They're really handy because when they're on the side of the page like that, you can kind of see all your pages at once, which I really like. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some more pages. You can either create them using Add a Page, or in Word, I don't know if you can do Add a Page in Word as well. You can insert a page break. And you can just insert a bunch of them. So I'm going to insert a bunch more than I would need. And I will say some of my newsletters, because we have so many members that send me stuff, I've actually had newsletters that are 6 pages long sometimes. But our chapter is kind of wild and wacky. I think they're trying to torture me. So keep in mind, you can put as many of these extra pages on here as you want, because I'm going to show you a little trick later that allows you to only PDF the ones you want. So you could have a bunch of these and then kind of use the same template every time. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and put our title of our newsletter on here. So what I'm going to do, what I do with my newsletter is I use text boxes. Text boxes are really handy because they turn your entire sheet of paper into one big clipboard. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make this percent a little bit smaller so you guys can see what I'm doing. That might be too small. There, now you guys can see what I'm doing. Now, when you create a text box, here it is on the screen, you'll see these little squares and circle things around the edges. The top one doesn't do, I don't do much with that one. Any of the corner ones, you can pull in and make it bigger and smaller, or you can just make it less wide with the side ones. You just click on one and you just click and pull up or down. When I click outside of it, they disappear. If I want them to show up again to do stuff, I need to click inside the box. So let's go ahead and let's put DKG Dispatch in this box. Now, that's going to be the title and head of my newsletter. So I'm going to need to make that bigger and probably center it. And I think most of you know how to center things, but when you go over here to your commands, and in Apple, it's over here on the side. In Word, it's at the top. But you'll find commands that look like this. And I'm going to use the middle one because that makes it go in the middle. If I use this one, it makes it go on the far side. I'm going to use the middle one. And then I'm going to go ahead also, and instead of at the top of the box, I'm not going to put it at the bottom either. I'm going to put it in the middle of the box. And now I'm going to start making it huge. Now it's big. So now I'm outside the box and I can't see that square around it. So I can't adjust it at all. So I'm going to click back in there and I'm just going to click this bottom one and drag it up a little to make it skinnier. Okay, next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to go ahead and add this other stuff that we know we have to include in our newsletter headings. As we have been told by the state, we have to do that. So I'm going to include that. And then once again, I'm going to click outside the box. But when I click back in, I get those little handy dandy squares. I'm going to bring this guy out and you'll see it'll automatically tell me when the other box is at the end. It sizes it for me, which is really great. And I can bring him down a little. Okay. Now I got him in there, but again, I think I should probably make him centered too, just to make him look fancier. And next, I'm also going to go ahead and I know we like to have logos. So I'm going to go ahead and put this logo from Ohio State Organization. And if you notice, when I click on it, I get those same squares around it. I'm going to hit copy and I'm going to go over here and I'm hit paste. He's going to show up. He never shows up where I want him. So I'm going to make him, I'm going to grab one of the corners and I'm going to make him a little smaller and I'm going to slide him in the middle. And now I have a header. And that's how my newsletter is going to look like every month. And the other trick I can do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one more text box. Now look, he covered things because he's sitting on top. I'm just going to move him down. I'm going to make him really wide. And I'm going to give him a border because I want a border between the top half and bottom half of my thing. So I'm going to give him a line border. Actually, you know what? I'm going to fill him first. Make him red just to make him festive. And I'm going to give him a border line. And I'm going to just make him really skinny. And now I'm going to move him up here. And now I even have a line underneath. So now I kind of separate my top half from my bottom And I could even put a border around him if I want. If I want to make sure, if I want to give him a border, I just click on him so I can see the stuff around him. And then I just go ahead and click and I make him a border. I can choose anything I want. I can make him red border. I can make him a narrower border. I can take him down to 1 if I want. I can even choose all kinds of funky borders. Okay. And this guy's covering him, so I'll just move him down. Okay, so now I've got my dispatch, and I will tell you next month, all I have to do is take this document and make a copy of it and just change the date down here and get rid of a few articles and start a few new articles. And I already have the header done every month. I never have to create that again. Once I do it once, I'm done. And if I want him wider, I can make him wider. He looked a little thin. Okay. Now, for everything else in my newsletter, everything is a copy and paste. I do everything the same as that. Everything is just like it's being put on a bulletin board. So the next thing I'm going to put on is upcoming dates and deadlines. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to do another text box. Oops. I think I did 2 of them. Whoops. Now see, this is where I get up to edit, undo, edit, undo, edit, undo, edit, undo. Now I'm back to where I was. See, I already made mistakes. I told you I wasn't kidding. So text box, I'm going to click in the middle and drag him. Now I want to see how far down I can go. I can't go too far. So I'm going to drag him down, and then I'm going to make him skinnier too, because I don't think this is going to take up much space. So I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to paste all that stuff in there. And now if I click out, you can see what he looks like. I'm going to click back in, and I could, if I wanted to, I could center justify it. Right now I have it left justified along the edge. I can make it center. I can make it on the right. I could have, and the other thing I should do probably is I usually try to make my heading. I'd probably make that bold. Let's put it in the center. Make it a little bit bigger. So now it looks more impressive. Let's put in an article too, just so you can see. So let's say I want to put in this article. So I'm going to do copy. Let's get another text box.
Yes.
And you can see I'm just adding it in. I'm going to hit delete here and paste it. And there's my next article. There's my next item. And again, I'll probably take this. And as you can see, I've already doctored this. I made it a little bit less bulky. I separated all the paragraph out to make it a little less bulky. I didn't want it to be as one paragraph oriented. I separated the several. The other thing in my newsletter, I actually prefer to put a border around every one of these boxes. So I would probably go over here in style and I'd put a border around it. But I don't like thick borders. I'd put a 1 or a 0.75 or something. I could do a border on this one too. I just like borders. So here's those two. Let's add another one. Let's add this one. Here's another one. So we'll copy. I'm going to create another text box. I'm going to drag him on the next page. You can click in the center of them and drag them anywhere you want. Let's make him I'm going to click outside to get him, click back in so I can get him to have the squares. And I'm going to go ahead and paste him in. Now, if you notice, there's a little square at the bottom. This is basically telling me, hey, lady, this is not big enough for this text stuff. So I had to go a little longer. So there's another one. And I can go ahead and I'll give him a box also. And then I could do another one. Here's another one. I wanted to give you several to show you. So here's another one. So I'm going to go ahead and do another box. Let's put him here. And I'm going to move these around, but let's just put them in here first and see what they look like. Paste. And, oh, I just made it on the size on that one. And I'll go ahead and give him a border. Okay, and then let's do one more. Let's do this one. So we'll do copy. Let's do one more down here. So I'm going to do one more text box. I just go up to text box and notice he has the little squares around him so I can size him. I'll put him here for now. And we're going to go ahead and put him in. Okay. Now, the other thing I always do with my text boxes is I always make sure they're a little bit bigger. So there's extra stuff at the bottom. Because I'm probably going to need more stuff because I'm going to add pictures to these things too. So let me show you an example of adding a picture. On that first page, I added an article about an upcoming event about reading a book. And the book was about this lady who's in the statue. So I'm going to copy this statue down here. And I'm going to go up here to this first page. I always try to click somewhere there isn't anything. So there's no box activated or no squares around corners or anything. And I'm going to paste it onto that page. And there it shows up. And I'm going to put her over in this article. And the next thing you guys would have all done is say, oh, great. Now we have to hit return a bunch of times to get that text to not be hidden behind that picture. But you don't have to do that. And professional people don't do any of that extra work. They don't want to work that hard. So all they have to do is you click back in the square to activate it. Now you got the squares there. You can see the little corner things are there. All the little corners are there. I'm going to pull one to make it a little bit bigger. There she is. And then all you need to do, and this is, you have to find where this is in Word, but here it is in Apple. You go over here under format here, you go to arrange.
It'll just
under arrange, there's something called, and you'll love this, it's called text wrap. It's the best thing ever. It gives you choices. I'm going to choose around and watch what happens with the picture when I hit around. It automatically wraps all the text around the picture. So I can move that picture up this way now and say, how does it look there? Or I can move the picture, I can grab it in the center and move it over here, maybe put it this way. See how it looks there. I can move it anywhere I want now on that page to make it look good. So maybe I want it at the bottom. Okay, and I still didn't center this guy, so I'm going to center him. So I'm going to go back to text and center him. Let's look at this other page. And I don't know how I got an extra space above Hamilton County, but I'm going to get rid of that. So on this page, again, we'd want to bold all these titles. I go to B for bold, make them bigger, center them. This one I might cheat and click on DKG to get that looking a little nicer. This next one, do the same thing. I'm going to highlight the title, go over for B as bold, make it a little bit bigger, center it again. Here's another one. I go over to B as bold, make it bigger, center it. Now you got all these guys, and they're looking great, but that's personally kind of boring because now you got this second page and there's just a bunch of articles and I'd probably be yawning. This isn't fun. So I want to do something with these. So let's see, what if this article is really big and this one's pretty average. This one's the smallest. I'm going to click this box and I'm just going to drag the box down here. And I'm going to take this box and I'm going to make him wider and shorter. Let's see what happens when I do that. I have to click back in the box to get my little square. There he is. Okay. Now let's put this guy over here. I'm going to make this guy. Notice when I clicked on him, can you see all his little squares around the corners? I'm going to take him and I'm going to grab and drag him over and make him skinnier. So let's see what we've got here. You can see it over here. It's still boring because there's no clip art. And I'm all about clip art. I love clip art. So let's make this one a little wider so that it goes across. And let's take this one and make it a lot narrower. We're getting closer. Now we've got some stuff to work with here. Let's make this one a little this way, this one a little this way. And let's take this guy and move him a little this way. Now I got space. Oops, let's move these down. Got to clear that. Every time you grab in the middle, you can move them around anywhere you want. And let's try to add a little clip art. Let's clip, I'm going to click on these roses. I'm going to copy them. And again, I tried to make sure nothing's open and then I paste, just so it doesn't cause any trouble. So let's put the roses, let's put them over here. Since the last page had that over there, I'm going to put the roses over here. And let's go ahead and do the wrap for them too. So there's the wrap for them. I may move them up a little and make them a little bit bigger. Let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. And then we could do the school. Let's take the school. We're going to put that with this report card one. So there's the school. I'm going to click and drag it. Now this one, I probably don't need to do a wrap around because it fits there perfect. So I don't think I need to do much. And let's do our last one here. Let's do our ladies here. They're cute. Copy. And let's put our ladies in this last article. And so we're going to click somewhere so nothing's clicked on, and we're going to go ahead and paste. And here's our ladies, and I'm going to go ahead and put them in too as a wrap. Okay. Now, a round doesn't look very good with them, does it? Because it's such a skinny one. You get type over here. It's weird. I'm going to do above and below for them. And I don't know if they'll fit or not. Let's try it. Yeah, you know, I'm running into trouble. I can make them smaller, though, and then they'll fit. There we go. Now we can fit them in here. I'm going to put Westerville, Ohio above them. So now I will tell you, though, I personally don't like above and below very much because it ends up putting tons of space above and below. So what I would probably do is just say none, and then I just hit return until I get where I want to go.
Okay.
So I would hit return and just lower this.
In there.
And then I can make our ladies a lot bigger and look really cute. So usually I don't use above and below because it's so easy to hit return and just lower it. Now, the only thing I want to show you is, and we got through this and we got 2 pages and it looks pretty good. The problem is I've got a big gap down here. And if you remember earlier in my presentation, I said, when I've got a big gap, that has holiday greeting written all over it. So I'm going to wish all of you a happy St. Patrick's Day. We're going to put a text box down here. Fit him in here. Make him skinny. Drag over here. And I'm going to go ahead and paste him in. And let's make him pretty big. And we'll put him in the center. I'm even going to put him in the center using this thing down here. And I think he needs a fancy border. So I'm going to go ahead to borders and I'm going to give him a fancy green border that's big. And I'm going to make it a really funky one. Let's do that. And the last thing I'm going to do, let's go ahead and add a clover because that'll look really cute for St. Patrick's Day. So I'm going to click somewhere else and I'm going to, oops, and hit paste. And let's bring his clover down. I don't like the fact that he's all squished in. So I'm going to go ahead over on arrange and hit around. And now it focuses everybody all balanced and he looks great. Now, as you can see, that was pretty quick. And I did that all in about 15 minutes. And I know you're saying, yeah, right, we can't do that. But I will tell you, you can do this stuff. Now, The other catch I told you is I was going to show you a really clever way to do your PDFs. You can keep this same template for next month. If I was going to do another newsletter next month, I would just make a copy of this and then delete a couple of these text boxes and put new ones in their spots. I might run this again next month, so I'll just move it to a different spot and move the clip art. So if I want to do a PDF of this, and I'm worried about all these guys at the end, I'm thinking, what am I going to do with those? A clever way to do PDF is go to print. People don't realize that you can do a PDF from print. It looks different on different people's computer. In Apple, it usually shows up down at the bottom here, and it says PDF. The nice thing about doing PDFs from print is you can choose your range. I'm only going to PDF the first 2 pages, pages 1 to 2. So if I hit PDF and save as PDF, I can title it. And I can save it to my desktop, or if I want to be snazzy, I could save it to my Gazette folder if I want to. But I'm going to save it to my desktop for tonight so you guys can see it easily. I hit save. And now my fancy new Gazette copy is right up here. And here is my Gazette I just created. And it stops at page 2. And now my Gazette that I have, I can save it and call it Gazette for March 2025. And next month, if I want to do a new one, I just do a duplicate of that one and rename the duplicate and start again with whatever I want to do. So that's kind of what I do with newsletters in a nutshell. And wanted to show you kind of how I put them together. So I guess at this point, I'd love to take any questions from people, and I kind of want to leave my screen up in case people want to ask me questions on how to do stuff. So I'm going to open it up to anyone who has questions with anything I talked about. I think the most important thing is just make it what works for your particular chapter, and keep in mind the 5 things that people really want in a newsletter. It doesn't have to be high tech, but you need to create something that people will read. I'm going to go back and see. So does anybody have questions? I can't hear anybody.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. What did you call the place where you got your graphics?
oh, it's called Pixabay. Pixabay is wonderful. When you type in anything, you can type in laptop. I wanted a graphic of a laptop. Let me show you. I will share my screen again. So if I want, I can go into Pixabay here.
Okay. Mhm.
And when I go into Pixabay, I can type in anything I want. I can type in laptop, or I can type in ladies working together, whatever I want. And then it'll give you some sponsored images at the top. Those are the ones you don't want to look at. And these are the royalty-free ones below. There are some that are graphic art type designs. Some are photos. You can do any of these. What I tend to do, I go up the top here and I go into no, why isn't it letting me do my usual thing? I usually go up to the top. That's weird. It usually allows you to choose. I only choose clip art. I don't choose the photos necessarily all the time. Sometimes I just want clip art or versions. But you can choose whatever you want. And here, oh, here you go, content type. Now, why isn't it, it jumped out of there.
Hmm.
That's okay, content type. That is really strange. See right here where it says all images? If I click on that, usually it gives me a drop down and I can choose photos, I can choose clip art, I can choose anything. I usually choose clip art, but basically there'll be a wide variety. You can go through, if I go to the bottom here, you'll see it'll say another 455 pages of images. It's crazy. So if you can't find it in Pixabay, good luck with finding it, period. It takes the right word. And then all you do is if I want, say I want this image right here, I click on it. Then I hit download. Then I hit download again. And this is the person that created it. And usually it shows up on my screen. I just close that. And then if you notice up at the top here, I have to show you. Do you see this little thing right here, this little down arrow? That's your upload. And if I click on there, download, that's your download folder. So I can just click and drag and let go. And now he's on my desktop. And that's how I do. And I'll find a bunch of these for any given, if I'm working on one of my editions, I'll go in here and say, well, what can I find when we have a laptop or what? And what I've done over time is in my Gazette folder, which is right here. Since I sometimes use the same clip art over and over, like if it's time to pay dues, we have a little dues clip art. What I do is I have my little clip art guys in little folders because I'm kind of overly obsessively neat and organized. So, and those of you who know me are kind of snickering because you know I am. Yeah. So anyway, I got like all my roses and flowers one. I got stuff for that. I got one for school clip art. I just different things because I got tired of looking at pages and pages of these things. So I've just got different clip art that I could use again and again. There's the clover I used for the presentation. And then in here, I keep other newsletter examples. This is a newsletter we got from Delta Chi. I can see that she's using clip art and text boxes because she has a side column. That's a text box. She's using text boxes for this stuff. There's some more text boxes. She's putting them on her screen. So she uses text box also. And so she sent me hers. I wanted to show you guys. I'm glad we thought to do that. And so these are other newsletter examples I've gotten from people. But then I keep all my gazettes. These are all the past year gazettes. These are all the ones from this year, starting in July. And on any given month, I put in anything I'm getting from people, or like this was my original gazette, and then I reworked it for the website only version. And I have a PDF of each one. And, one thing you can do is get clever with these things. I treat my masthead as kind of like a yard duck. I decorate it. So you got to have some fun with this stuff or you lose your mind. So like in January, I gave it icicles. So you can do all kinds of crazy things just to kind of keep people chuckling and reading. Does that answer the Pixabay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? We still have 6 minutes. I'm more than happy. I don't want to confuse people beyond belief. This stuff, I will tell you, I looked back at my oldest Gazette, the very first one I did. And this has been 7 years ago. And it is so basic. The one I did tonight for you guys looks fancier than that one I did. But over time, I've just learned little tricks and things to do to kind of get things to work certain ways. And 99% of it's because I goofed up and figured out, oh, that's how that works. So don't be scared to try weird things with, try it. You can always hit the undo button. Sometimes I purposely just try something for a while because I know I can hit the undo button and get rid of it if I don't like it. Yeah, Joyce.
I've used the text box, but that's how I do everything. But sometimes there'll be an article and I'll put a colored background on it.
You can.
Do you not recommend that?
Well, I try to be sensitive to the fact that one of our members does print out a copy every month for a member she's mailing to. And this is Margaret, who's here tonight. Hello, Margaret. And she prints out a copy every month for one of our older members who does not have a computer. So she prints it, and I've been thinking, oh, I'd love to get more color, but I don't want to destroy her printer. So I don't go overboard. As it is, our photos add some color and all. You can put color in the background. If you go really dark, you can put white lettering. But I've just been hesitant because color backgrounds really kill printers.
Oh,
So-
well, I've been mailing 2 copies out every time for mine. But
So
I
that's
don't,
the thing. You're
Yeah.
gonna go through a lot more printer ink, and so I just try to keep this at a point where it's printable, but our members can all get it and read it, and it's very easy to flow, through it real quick. I'd say, and Margaret, I don't know about you, but maybe 5 minutes max, and you can read any of our newsletters for our
Yes.
chapter.
Yes.
So, I mean, they're very quick. It takes very little time. Here's, you can have a little advanced showing. Here is the newsletter that has not come out yet.
Mm.
This is our March newsletter. And as you can see, we do some work with the marathon. I'll make it a little bit smaller so you guys can see. But I've gotten to the point I can add things in. I can do all kinds of weird stuff with things. I created that with the little cogs. I thought it was cute for executive board action. But you can see every single one of my articles has some clip art. I just think it adds more interest. Margaret, you don't know about this, but this is going to be our logo for our 60th anniversary coming up next year.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah. There's our February event. There's our convention information, legislative update. That's page 5. Our meeting minutes. And I even had the meeting minutes continuing on another page. And then, of course, I did not have a spot. I did not have anything for this spot. So it became a happy St. Patrick's Day graphic. And then at the very end was our handy links. So, again, I love holiday greetings, and my secret's out now. Margaret's going to laugh whenever she sees a holiday greeting because she's going to know it's because I had nothing to put there. But
I won't tell.
yeah, I do that a lot. So, I kind of just have fun with it and, create what I can each month. So, and I usually start Diana or our whatever president we have. Our president usually sends something out to the members about the 12th and says, send things to Katie by the 25th. And then I take everything on the 25th and I start putting together the puzzle. And I shoot it to our secretary on the 30th, and it's out the door on the 2nd. And that's even including a lady who proofreads. So it's pretty much a well-greased machine at this point. We just have a schedule, and our members do send me things because they enjoy reading it.
do you recommend a certain font or size?
I go with 11 for size for regular, and then I go with 15 for my bold titles. And yeah, and I do Times New Roman. It's a pain because every text box I have to change the font because I think theirs are in Helvetica. But I like Times New Roman because mine's like an old-fashioned newspaper. So I started with Times. I should probably go to Helvetica because it'd be a lot less work for me. But there's all kinds of different fonts, and that's not necessarily the most modern font, but that's what I started with. So that's what I use. I try to stick with a font and use it for the whole newsletter. So they're all,
People send me articles, they're in different fonts, and I just wondered if you had a favorite that worked, because I have to put them all the same.
not really. I mean, Arial is tried and true. A lot of organizations require Arial for all their publications. So Arial is kind of like the business standard, it seems, anymore. I use Times New Roman. There's Comic Sans. That's the one that's a little bit more whimsical that you see on a lot of like more elementary school things, and it's kind of cute. That was my timer. I turned into a pumpkin. So my husband said he'd have a glass of wine ready
All
for
right.
so anyway, but yeah, no, you can use whatever font you want. I'd say just play with some, but you know, if you're going to use it throughout so that your whole newsletter looks more professional, more together, more cohesive. I can stay as long as people have questions. Hey, there's Diana down there. Hi, Diana.
We would
Diana,
like
I let
to
the cat out
thank
of the
you.
bag. They know our new 60th anniversary symbol. But I had to show them our March newsletter ahead. So it goes out on the 2nd. So you guys got a sneak peek.
Let's give Katie a round of applause.
Oh, yeah.
And we do thank you. Very informative. I kept looking at the clock just because I thought, oh, the time's going so fast. But in that fast time, you really put a newsletter together. And I think that's one thing that makes it impressive as well. So you're a well-oiled editor. Let's go that way too.
Well, and as I said, don't start, just start with playing, and you can start small. I've just gotten to the point, I've been doing this for 7 years, 12 months a year. So I've gotten a lot of tricks, and I'd be more than happy to share, or if somebody's stuck on something and you say, how do you do this? How can I do this? Or how can I do that? Just let me know. I'm happy to fiddle with it, or I could get on quick Zoom with you and look at what you're doing. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. If your name
Thank
is
you.
not in the chat box with your chapter, please add it. And with that, we'll say good night. And again, much thanks, Katie.
Good
Thanks.
night. Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Jane.
Oh, thank you.
Great job,
You
Katie.
too.
Thank you.
job.
I'll see
Great
you all at
job.
convention, hopefully.
Yes.
I think I'm going to start using Pages.
I
Are
wonder
you?
if you are.
Yeah, because when you use Word with the text boxes and you go to put an image in it, it's not that easy.
No,
It's
it's not. And Pages,
bear.
I'll tell you, I almost think Pages has some of that built-in Adobe that the Word stuff doesn't.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes I'll even, if I want to like something lined up weird inside of an article, I'll even do another text box inside the article with that part of the article. I mean, you can do all kinds of funky things with it.
Well, and the other thing is you have to create you can't copy your text and then create the text box. You have to create the text box first and then copy and paste in Word.
Yeah, you don't have to do any of that. You can copy and create your text box and go at it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've just
And
been
it's
so
just-
used to because that's what I taught. Word was the thing I taught at school.
Right.
Yeah.
You should
I
start
think
playing
I'm
with it.
changing.
And play with the photos part of it too, because when you do the borders on photos, it gives you all kinds of
Oh, I
funky.
saw that. Now I know where you got it from.
Oh yeah, you can make them look like they're curved and they're pinned onto a bulletin
Yeah.
board. You can do all kinds of fun things with photos. Yeah, really cool. And I'm more than happy to send you, look at what Kathy just for those of you who are still with us, Kathy gets my newsletter every month because she's editor. And so I always get these comments, whoa, that's cool. So yeah, so she's seen some of the weird stuff I put into these
Oh, I don't
things.
think it's weird at all.
Yeah,
No,
so
don't
I
think it's
find
weird.
things. But yeah, I mean, I just, and sometimes I have fun. I just try something to see what it looks like. And because I can always undo. And as you can see tonight, I make mistakes. So anyway, that's kind of what I do.
That's great.
Night, Mary.
Bye-bye.
Converted
Thank
me.
you.
Thanks.
Thanks to everybody. Beth,
You're
get
welcome.
well.
Thank you. And
Yep.
if you have trouble with YouTube, let me know because I do have a copy I can send to people.